So this is where you're going to land as soon as you log in. Um, you can use a few different ways to log in. I always use the Discord option to log in, but all three options will work. As soon as you log in, the first thing you're going to check when you're preparing for territory battles are when the last data was fetched. You can see it was actually refreshed 7 minutes ago, but quite often this is going to be several days because I'm the only person that's actually that's refreshing this. So usually if it's set more than a few days, you'll want to go ahead and click the refresh button. It's going to take up to about 30 seconds just to refresh the data. The reason we want it refreshed is we want to make sure that we have all of the current units that all of the guild members have, because if someone maybe relic a character that we can use, we want to make sure that HotUtils understands that and they have it on file for us to use. So after that's done, you'll see it's fetched within the last few seconds. And then from here, you're going to go ahead and go down to these different sections, and we're of course looking at territory battles. So you'll go ahead and hit that one, and then we're looking at planning. There are a bunch of different options here. Of course, we're only doing Rise of the Empire at the moment, so that's the one that you're going to want to select. Go ahead and click on that guy. You'll see that all of the old templates are here as well. I usually do remove them after there's been several iterations, just to remove the really old ones. I do keep like 1 or 2 of the previous ones, just so that we can see historically who's really gotten this unit, typically for certain Return of the Empire battles, just so that we can have that historical data. But I do typically come in here and delete some. We're going to start with create a new template, and then the naming convention that I use is whatever the phase is and the day. And the reason is that I do that is this will actually display in the Discord message that everyone receives. And it's really helpful for them to know the phase and the date. And that's just in case we need to send out an update, or maybe they receive a duplicate message. They'll know exactly what day these assignments are for, and there's just no confusion there. So I would ask that you just stick with this naming convention. The default is sort units by character name. That's the easiest. If you don't, it's going to be really hard for you to find units if they're not alphabetical. So just leave this one on. That's what we want to do. And then from there, what you're going to do is find what you just created. So we created phase 1 for April, and it's right here at the beginning. So we're going to hit the view button. By default, none of the planets are selected. For phase 1, it's obviously really easy. We can only obviously do the first set of planets. So you'll click the drop downs, select the appropriate planet. For future phases, just as a quick reminder, I do have this sheet here that tells you exactly what we're targeting for each phase currently. That may change in the future once we grow a little bit past around 550, and or we get more contribution within combat missions. But right now, this is what we're able to achieve, and this has been pretty steady within about the last, I think, 3 or 4 months. I don't think that this will change during the time period in which I'm out. This may change hopefully later in the future. But for right now, just going to show you how I do phase 1. We can definitely talk about other phases, but it's pretty similar. What you're going to do is come down to all of the planets that you're going to fully 3-star first. You want to do it in that specific order, and that will make a little bit more sense once we talk about it here in a second. So we're going to 3-star Corellia and Coruscant. So I'm going to come down to Corellia first. I'm going to hit the Assign Players button, which is in the top right-hand corner of each planet. Pretty easy. It's going to assign these by power ascending. So what that means is it's always going to start at the lowest power and go to the highest power, which is what we want. So let's say, as an example, there's a requirement for a R7 ray. We want the weakest one to be assigned to operations because we want the strong ones to be saved for combat missions, right? So that's the default. That's how it's going to work. So if there's 5 different rays that are required, it's always going to start with the weakest one and then work its way up, saving the strongest ones for combat missions. That's the default. That's the best way that we should be doing this. We don't want to do it the other way, because if we do it by descending, it will start with the strongest and then work its way down to the weakest. When we do ascending, by the way, it will always be sure that they match the requirements. So if the requirement is for a R7 ray, it's not going to assign someone that has a R6 ray. It will always be someone that matches the requirements for that planet. Now, you'll see the next area here is excluding players. That's going to be anyone that has said that they will be out for leave of absence or for whatever reason they cannot place operations. So you'll come in here and you can just type in their name. You can start typing their name, it'll autocomplete. You'll want to click on that person's name. So we have an inactive player right now, so I don't want to assign any operations units to him because I know he's not going to place them. And we don't want his units to go unplaced because then we have to scramble at the end of the phase and try to get them filled, which is a nightmare. So I'm going to exclude him because I know he's not going to help. He's not going to be placed during this territory battle. So I can go and hit the save button, and it's automatically going to fill in every assignment for me. This is the super easy part. After every planet that you fill, though, you will want to come up to the top and hit save the plan. This is due to some like wonkiness in HotUtils that if you don't do this for whatever reason, I don't know why, it will double up assignments. So as an example, here's an assignment for C3PO. If I were to not save and come down here and do the same thing, assign everyone, it's probably going to assign the same person to fill in C3PO down here. And as you guys know, you can only place that unit once in a phase, so that's super not helpful. So we want to avoid that and just make sure that every time that you fill in a planet, before you move to another planet, you come up here and you hit the Save the Plan button. You'll get a pop-up that says Guild Setting Updated, so that you know, hey, I've clicked on it, we're good to go. Also, if you're ever unsure if you actually did click it, just click it again. You can save multiple times, it doesn't hurt anything. From there, you're going to come down to the next planet. So we're going to 3-star Coruscant as well. So I can go and hit Assign Planets. It's automatically going to keep my selection to exclude any players. So John C is already there. I can hit the Save button. Boom. Everyone's in. 15 out of 15 for every area. If for whatever reason we can't fill a unit, it will be red. And that's an indication to you that we just don't have enough of that unit, or no one has that matching unit. So you won't run into it in early phases. You may run into this in later phases. So I'm going to hit Save the Plan again. Now, boom, that's done. Now we're going to change a little bit how we do preload planets. So I'm going to hit Assign Planets just like we normally would. It's going to exclude John. I'm going to hit Save. You'll notice that right now it's filled every spot. 15 out of 15, which we don't want, of course, because if we fill them all in, it will fill operations. We won't be able to save those numbers for the next phase. We want to sandbag the guild points in this phase, so we're going to go ahead and hit Save the Plan, but now I'm going to go through and I'm going to remove one assignment from each of these operations so that it's 14 out of 15, because we're only wanting to assign 14 out of 15, get as close as possible, but not complete it. So for me personally, since I complete those early on at the very beginning of next phase, what I will do is look at units that I have that I'm not going to use for combat, so I can easily finish it next phase, but also units that just really aren't generally used for not only combat missions, but like other operations. So I wouldn't want to pick like a really common unit that maybe we're short on, so I wouldn't pick like, Darth Revan or, anything that's a little bit harder. I wouldn't pick anything like that. So for me personally, I usually pick ships, ships that aren't used in combat. So for this first section here, I see Gauntlet Starfighter here. Yeah, no one uses that for combat, so I can remove that one. You can see now it's 14 out of 15. Awesome, I can go to the next one. I'm scanning, I see Hyena Bomber. Cool, nobody uses that for combat either. Operation 3, I can look. Houndstooth I wouldn't select because it's usually used for combat missions, usually on that middle planet. So I wouldn't select that one, but I would say that, don't really use TIE Bomber, so I can remove that assignment. Now, Operation 4, I look again. There is a ship here, but it's just Houndstooth, so once again, I'm not going to use that. So where I'll default from here is like really common units that are typically reliced by a lot of people in the guild, but we don't use it for combat. So General Grievous is a unit that we don't use for combat, so I can safely remove one of those. Operation 5, I'm going to look again. Don't see any ships, so what I would next do is think, okay, well, what is something here that we don't use for combat? It's something that we have a lot of, and it's going to be Chimera, right? So I'm going to remove that. And then I'm going to look at operation 6, see what's here, and I see Imperial TIE Fighter. Cool. Nobody uses that as well, and especially I don't, so since I'm going to fill that in next phase, I feel good about removing that. And hit Save Plan. And then from here, I'm done, right? So I'm going to just double check. Yeah, we want a 3-star Corellia. They're all completed, 15 out of 15, everything's green. Coruscant, everything's green, we want a 3-star that. And then Mustafar is the one that we are preloading. And I can tell that by the plan. It says that we are 3-starring light mixed planets and preloading dark. So I can go back to HotUtils, knowing that I have filled in the plan correctly, and then I'm going to hit the Send Discord DMs button. And what it's going to do is say, do we want to only send the people who are assigned? You can basically just leave everything here exactly as it is, except change the platoon deadline to 8 hours. I will say that some people don't read this, but I still want it to say, please fill this in with 8 hours, because that's what we want people to do. Whether or not they do it, that's another story for another day. You can type in any extra info here if you want to. I typically don't, because once again, people really don't read it. And then I'm going to hit Save Settings and Send Discord DMs. It's going to come up with this and let you know, hey, do you want to send this out? There are a lot of other messages in queue. For a long time, I didn't actually know what this meant. These are other guilds. So this is how many messages are in the queue to get sent out. You're always going to hit yes, but this is just to let you know like how many messages are out there. So you have a good idea as to like how long it's going to take by like an estimation. A few hundred, that's no problem. If you see like 10,000, that's a big problem. It's going to take, more than 15 minutes for those messages to go out. Typically, what I'll try to do is send these messages at least 30 minutes before the next phase starts, because as you can imagine, when it gets closer to phase turnover, all of the guilds are trying to send out messages, which clogs up the system. So that's why you want to get to this a little bit earlier, because if you wait until 5 minutes before the next phase starts, what's going to happen is it takes 20 minutes to send it out, right? So the next phase is going to start, messages won't have gone out, so you have to tell them in Discord, hey, I've queued it up, messages haven't gone out, so that they're not being impatient saying, where are my assignments? So that's pretty easy. I'll create another one for next phases so that maybe you can see what it looks like when we don't have certain units and then what we would do from there. But phase 1 itself is pretty easy.